but with the Ethiopian eunuch, it's pretty clear, though that's just a very unusual situation. But I think it does give us permission to baptize someone who's not going to be covenanting with us and not going to be in our local church. We can do that. But I just want you to know, and you do know, it seems like, how important covenant fellowship in a local church is.
Certainly, certainly. And, the reason I haven't brought up I would like to transfer my membership here is because I know that that is such a vital part of being. But I did want to come back this fall, and because I'm such an itinerant that I really can't afford to obviously rent houses and stay in hotels. But so when it's 100 degrees outside, I'm going to be looking for cooler temperatures.
It's almost like you migrate. You
Exactly.
follow weather patterns.
That's a good word for it. That's a good word for it.
So the picture you sent me of the little white structure, is that where you were?
That's where I was. That's where I was.
You said it was very well insulated.
Well, the thing about it is that was, I don't know if you've ever been to Chicago, but the pier, the Navy pier there is the most the a tourist most famous tourist attraction there, and I had access to everything that I need, and I was literally within a stone's throw of the Navy pier, and all these high rises around me, $400 a night hotels. This is just a very, very. But at any rate, all you need is a propane bottle and a propane heater in when it gets cold. And like I say, that place was so well insulated but I just went there to sleep, and during the day, take a shower, go to work. But that's, I think the important thing is when I went there, at least for me, the important thing was when I went there, I said, Lord, I said, I want to go to Bangladesh. And he said, well, go to Chicago first. And I don't trust you. And he's not really talking to me, but in my mind. And so I said, well, this is going to be a Gideon police test, because I've got 100 people around me telling me, why go to Chicago? Why not go somewhere safe like San Diego, or think of 100 different places? There's food pantries everywhere. If you want to serve, you can find poverty anywhere. And I go, whenever you pray, whenever you've been praying, you feel like you're led in a certain direction, and it's hard to get that through to people. But anyway, on the bus to Chicago, people were, outside the bus. This is exaggerating. They said, "You're gonna get killed. You're gonna get robbed." And and because when I got off the bus at that Greyhound station, we had a pretty seedy crowd, and I had no place to go. And I said, "Where is the Lake Michigan?" And they pointed me in. So the first night I slept in a park there on Lake Michigan, but the next day, I found, and for some reason, this huge construction area, the gate was open. And so I wandered in. I didn't know where I was going or what I was doing, and I saw this thing. And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking, this is the Lord. This is the Lord. Next day, the gate's closed. Nobody ever comes in that restricted area. And to get out of it was a long story in itself, because it wasn't the safest thing in the world. But I figured out a way to get in and out of this construction area. And like I say, I got up early and went to work, came home, went to bed, and that's all I did. And so
it's very unique situation. I've never met any really honest
well, the thing about it is, and the reason people ask me why don't you just be normal? Why aren't you normal? And I go, to me, and I did an interview in Washington, D.C. in 2023, where I explained, I was interviewed on this YouTube channel thing where they were trying to use the concept of epistemology to say, well, why isn't one religion any better than the other? And I was easily able to destroy that argument. And I'm not going to go into detail, but I could. But I told him I did not want to get into, quote, I didn't want to continue to exist in the rat race. And I define the rat race as going to work 50 weeks a year, taking 2 weeks vacation, and then going back to work. Now, I did that for a long, long time. I've experienced everything in life that I wanted to experience. And the hardest thing in the world, I think, is to say, all right, God, I want to pick up my cross, and I really want to see if what Jesus said, don't worry about what you should eat, consider the birds of the air, what you should put on, consider the lilies of the field. Even Solomon's not dressed as one of these, that they never spin nor toil. That Solomon's not, does not your Holy Father consider? And so I'm finding these things are true. These, I mean, on a daily basis. And you know this, if you went over to Nepal and you're talking to a guide whose name is the people group that you prayed for.
But you've been willing, very few people do what you do, all right? There is a long heritage of it. Mendicant monks that would walk around, they literally had nothing, and they would just minister, and then they would just day to day. And there are people that have done that, and most people, settle down, because you can't really do that with a wife and kids. It's like your job as a husband and father is a lot.
Right.
And Paul even talks about with the Thessalonians, mind your own business, work with your own hands, and not be
you don't work, you don't eat.
And not be dependent on anybody.
Right.
And that means that you're going to provide. And it is the normal way that God provides for his people is through their own minds, hands, bodies, working.
Right. That's true.
But you are called to work, you are working, but to work in a variety of different ministry settings. That's unusual. I want to ask Mike if he's free to talk about that. That's why we met, and I want to be sure that we get that dealt with, because Easter's coming up, and I want to be sure that the logistics.
Yes.
So let me give him a call and just say if he's available. We'll walk down to his office. Hang on a second. I'm glad you're already. When did you talk to him?
When I was here in 2023, I don't know how we got on the subject, but evidently his kinfolk is a picture measure.
Yes,